On my phone, I have had a series of tabs open with articles that I intended to read and give my opinion on, but it turns out that it's been almost 2 years now and I never got around to it. I decided that today would be the day that I do that. Hilariously, my very first tab open on my phone has been open for almost as long as this article has been out, because at the time that I gave this a little bit of a skim, it was back in May-ish 2022. Today is the day that we go over this topic because it's pretty relevant to a lot of things I go over these days. I think that this is going to help me put more thoughts together, put more points together that not that I need further convincing on something that I'm set on and have been since I was a kid. It's just refreshing to possibly encounter someone who put it together better than I myself could. So here we go. The topic is from this website called Your Tango, which maybe some of you may not be fans of, but me personally, I like to look at it, to breeze through it and see what people are discussing, and then if I create my own opinion that may be substantial, that's when I may consider journaling about it. But lately I've been trying to make more reaction vids about it, and I think this is my first time referencing them, if I'm not mistaken, or maybe it's been many years. No, your life doesn't have more value, in quotes, because you have kids. And when your high and mighty mom self tells me that, it makes me irate. And I can already tell you that I 100% agree with this person, because I have felt, but really not known how to describe, the way that some adults' lives revolve around their children constantly. And I'm not saying that that is inherently wrong. I'm just saying that not balancing that might be the thing that is wrong. Overall, I think that what you need to do is teach your child that your life indeed does not revolve around them, and why it shouldn't, or how it shouldn't. It's easier said than done, but I think it'll make sense as I start expressing my own opinion based on what we're getting ready to read here. But I met one person who genuinely put it like that, and then I thought, I had never thought of it like that, but it is the opinion that I have, because it's something similar to how mom used to be when raising us. Would you like to know why I'm child-free? Because kids are work. There are plenty of other reasons, such as preparedness and the fact that I can barely get myself up and out of the door each morning, let alone another human being. And I know that feeling, because sometimes when my alarm goes off, I only give myself an hour before my shift starts to get up, brush teeth, get dressed, head out. And I usually fast in the morning. I like to wait for one of my breaks to have my first nibble for the day. Also, I'm not going to shower again after I had taken my shower at nighttime, because I don't even want to think about the effects that's going to have in my skin. I remember when I used to take 2 showers per day, and I'm not saying it was bad, but I could feel that my skin was excessively dry, because I like to shower with relatively warm water and then finish it off with cold water, and that's just not good for long term. Then there's the whole permanent nature of children, and oh yeah, they are people. She italicized that they are people. People with needs and feelings, which leads me back to the whole notion of work. I would rather just sit here and watch this terrible movie that I have seen 900 times and drink this wine, enjoy dealing with another person's bodily fluids. And I feel you on that, because for me, when I come back from work, I need my religious 1 or 2 hours of quiet time, downtime, me time, just time to do nothing, kick back, possibly even make a video on my way home. And that's why sometimes you guys might see me shooting from my car. And it's if I had a very compelling thought. Sometimes those topics, unless I say, this is a topic I have had down since however long it's been, unless I express that, that is a topic that occurred to me on the fly. possibly when I'm driving. And it's one of those things that comparable to when I'm taking a shower. The sound of running water or the sensation of water really gets me amped up creatively. And I hate that most of the time I cannot take action on it because the place I'm experiencing the inspo is not a place I can have a phone, or I don't have my phone on me, or I don't have pen and paper to write it down. And sometimes I forget. It's like I enter a chamber of creativity, and then after I exit it, it's like I'm back on this realm, and I just don't function quite the same. I'm a very sensory person. And yes, the thought of dealing with someone else's bodily fluids, I don't want to deal with my bodily fluids. So imagine somebody else's. As much as I am a believer that the whole point of life is to serve and relieve misery, let's face it, we all have a right to be picky about the kind of servitude that you decide to perform. I don't think anybody should be shamed about not finding it enjoyable or fun or an extreme bonding experience to deal with someone else's fluids, no matter what their stage is, whether it's an elderly person, disabled person, or a baby. Bodily fluids are gross and disgusting, but we try to put makeup on it and be like, well, we're serving somebody with needs. It's their dignity, blah, blah, blah. Okay, cool. I'm not debating that. I'm not debating the value of someone having kept me clean when I couldn't do it myself and saved me from public embarrassment and whatnot. Just because that was done for me, I don't feel like I have to treat somebody like I owed them something. This is the part where I'm not sure how to really put into words what I'm trying to say, but there are people who say, I will always do anything and whatever to keep so-and-so safe and happy. Good. I think we all inherently have that. If we see somebody in need, someone who's a member of our squad, of our family, we are going to respond innately in that way. I'm just saying that some of us should be allowed to not pretend like we enjoy that. But people always talk about parenting as an absolutely positive experience. Yeah, I have to wipe this kid's butt, but it's like you are always finding ways to undo the negative comment by having something positive to reinforce it. See what I mean? Like, no, you should be allowed to say that you hate that aspect and that no matter how much you love your kid, that disgusting feeling lingers. But I think some people really try to numb that part of themselves, and that's the part that I don't like. If I don't like wiping butt, I will not end up enjoying wiping butt just because of the psychological benefit of it. I can say, I hate wiping butt, no matter what. That's better than saying, well, I hate wiping butt, but I do it for the kid. Or whatever benefit you're trying to express to counter the negative comment. Because I think that there is a difference, ever so slight, between the thought of, I despise wiping butt, I'll still do it, versus I hate wiping butt, however, I do it because blah, blah, blah. If one of you gets it, thanks. If the rest of you don't get it, I'm not going to be frustrated in any way. I know I need work at expressing that one. Depending on the configuration of words that you use, it really, really, really describes your feeling. But sometimes even when you're using the right words, it may not convey your feeling properly. For instance, a child that's needy, I don't want it to seem like no matter what, I am not wiping butt. Absolutely no, can't do it. Because if that were the case, I think I would never wipe mine down, and then I would get fired because I'm not clean enough for the job. See what I mean? The consequences. This is what I'm trying to say to you guys when I say that I never hang out in the gray zone. It's either yes, I will do it, or no, I would do it. Not a maybe. There's no maybes with me. It's commitment to do it or commitment to not do it. So you can count on me ultimately doing it. Like if my mom needs help eventually, if she gets there to a stage in which she needs help, she'll be able to count on me. an infant, if for whatever reason I have to be in charge of one during an emergency, of course. But there is a possibility that I may change my mind. And I'm gonna be like, well, since I hate wiping butt, even though it's important for the person's health and wellness, I'm deciding that no, I'm not going to wipe butt. Do you see the difference? It's not maybe depending on what or who it is or what the situation is, I'll do it. It's no. As of right now, you can count on me wiping butt if it's necessary. But in the future, I'm just saying that I could change my mind, and no matter what the circumstances, I may say, hey, no, I would rather not wipe down butt. And in the future, should I arrive at that conclusion, you better believe I'm going to have reasons for doing that, and I'll share them. Somewhere along the line, I wound up with a life full of friends who have children. Many had these children prior to my entry into their lives. Others had them after I came into the picture. At any rate, I have gotten used to having my conversation interrupted. And that one pisses me off so much because when I was a kid, my mom always said, when two adults are conversing, you are not. You don't say anything unless there's an emergency, unless you're in pain, bleeding, there's a fire, something like that, or you're being kidnapped. Don't interrupt. And to this day, even as a grown-ass person, I still treat conversations in which I was not originally a part of or originally invited to like that. I don't interrupt. I may stand some distance away, stare at whomever I need, and if they acknowledge me within maybe 10 seconds, great. If they don't, then it's my loss. I'll come back later, whatever I have to do. But other times, I would rather just wait completely for another time. If it's not something urgent, wait another day, whatever it is that I have to do. But I respect other people conversing so much that to this day, in that aspect, I still act like a child. I hate that people don't have the same courtesy toward me. You see me talking to somebody and you'll still plow your way into my conversation. Or, this is even worse, the motherfucker I'm actually talking to gets easily distracted and acknowledges everybody who parades by us as we're conversing. At that point, what I do is I leave the conversation because clearly your conversation with me is over and I don't have time for you being absent from the conversation we were originally having. And most importantly, I am deserving of respect because I know I have earned it. I get mad at both parties, the interrupter, but also the person easily interrupted. If a child were to do that to me, I would be like, do you have an emergency? You don't. Leave. And I would say it with that tone because that's literally how I was raised. My mom never actually barked at me like that because I understood her message. I always thought I spilled something that's probably dangerous. I need help cleaning it. Come over and look at it. Something like that. I wish I remembered exactly times I may have interrupted her, but I did make sure that it was for legitimate reasons. I never really experienced a bad consequence out of that. I hate that because to me, the flow of a thought is important. The flow of what I'm reading is important. And to have an unnecessary interruption because your fucking kid is not well disciplined, I can't stand that at all. And it takes me back to my time when that was unacceptable. So to see that in other people's lives that is acceptable, I don't know. And that's one example of your life does not revolve around your children. Teach your kid that when you're conversing with another adult, at that moment, it's not about them, unless there's an emergency. It's not just for kids. An adult with an emergency would be justified to interrupt the conversation. But I'm trying to describe how you need to teach kids that they cannot dominate you. And when a kid is comfortable interrupting conversations and you give them attention for stupid shit, like, mommy, look at my drawing. You need to teach them that that's not the time for them and to shut the fuck up and go somewhere else and wait. I shrug because, hey, kids, I don't have any. But from what I understand, taping their mouths shut is not an option. You would think that with my very, very, very single status, I would see people with children and run for the hills, which cannot be further from the truth. Here's a fun fact about my life without kids. Just because I might not have any does not mean that I hate every child I will ever meet. With me personally, I have always hated children since I was a child myself. And as an adult, I hate them when they start screeching like fucking pterodactyls, just whining about things. They cannot take no for an answer. That domineering aspect of children. But if I meet a genuinely well put together, well behaved, well disciplined, well mannered child, I admire them because I remember when I was a child and I was like that, and so was my brother. If I can have a child who reminds me of me, come into my life and acts better than I used to act when I was that age, that's when we're gonna be tight. Because again, I'm the kind of person who I like to hang out people who are better than me, or help me be better, or make me reflect on a past time in my life in which I thought, damn, there's some stuff that I did that was wrong or I sucked at, but it doesn't have to be that way anymore. So when I observe a child being better than me, I look at it as, wow, that time, that season for me is over, but this is what could have been better. And I don't have any problem reflecting back on that and getting my lesson from somebody who literally was not even in the matrix by the time I came about. That's what this is about for me. In fact, I really enjoy children. They are, for the most part, fun, hilarious, precocious, unpredictable. I just don't have any. This doesn't make me more or less of a woman. It simply is. I do agree that kids can be fun, hilarious, and precocious and unpredictable, because when I'm at work, sometimes I see what some of them do or what some of them say or ask, and I cannot help but have a chuckle to myself, especially when they're learning to grasp things. Their parent might go, all right, place it gently on the belt, and they go. That's just my favorite thing to witness. And their version of gentle is like slamming something sometimes. And I remember those times. I remember learning motor skills, coordination, and stuff. Mom had to always tell me, all right, gently, slow down, gently. And then if I started doing things gently, I had this issue where I used to think that gently meant release. In some cases, I'm like, okay. And then say it's a cup and I'm gently bringing it down, but then I let it go too soon and it tips over and whatever is in it spills. That used to be super hilarious to me. But now looking back, I think not only are you developing your motor skills, but you're also developing how you interpret language. And I never really thought about that until I remembered moments like that. And now I'm sharing it with you guys. But now that I observe other children at the store doing that type of thing, it helps remind me of when I was at that stage, when I didn't have a lot of control over my motor skills. And then I thought, okay, there was a combination of mistaken interpretation, but also just me learning stuff, me learning how to people. And yeah, I really hate it when some people try to put this fear in you that, oh my God, you are a woman in your 40s and you're having your first kid, or you're in your 40s and you still haven't had a kid. For some reason, the women get messed up more about that. They get criticized more about that type of thing because of our so-called biological clock. Comfy editing Zam here. And because, of course, the older a woman is trying to conceive, the more dangerous it is physically to give birth. But still, it's not your right to be saying those things. You can say it from a place of concern, but from a place of instilling fear and shame, no. And I'm like, when are we going to talk about the fact that men's seeds also have biological clocks? Like, the older you clowns get women pregnant, when you're older yourself, your sperm is more likely to have defects on it. It may result in a child being born with certain challenges. But no, we don't want to talk about that, right? Just an example. I also like to overall just not care about those things, because I know where I'm at. I know I'm in a similar boat. So you having kids or not having kids, as long as your child is not getting in the way, or your lack of a child but possible yearning of it does not get in the way of me enjoying your presence, I don't care. I just don't. Somehow, even without having children, I have managed to grasp the concept of life and that people will follow their own paths. I have never felt the need to begrudge another for their experiences or life choices, and by the grace of God, I'm surrounded by people who live the same. Sometimes there's gossip and judgment and major side eyeing, but the general rule I follow for myself is you do you. Every once in a while, a post will pop up just to remind those of us without kids how unfulfilled our lives are. Childless people cannot possibly understand the concept of love or any human emotion. And let's face it, if we went by that logic, let's say that a child is born into a home of abuse and neglect. And let's say that this individual grows up and they start dating, getting married, but they don't have kids. Are you trying to tell me that this person who was not loved by their parents, that only parents can give you the real feeling of love, and that you can only give love to a parent as well? Those are supposed to be your original sources of love and possibly the first people you deposit love toward. But let's say that you had a terrible childhood, terrible circumstances. You don't associate love with those individuals. Are you telling me that it is impossible for you to love your spouse? Are you telling me that you're not capable of experiencing that love that you ought to deposit onto someone, on a spouse, or that you cannot believe that a spouse can love you in a way that can fulfill you in a way that your childhood didn't? If your parent never showed you love, it is possible, in this case, for a spouse to end up loving you more than a parent ever did. But somehow we like to say that only my mom and only my dad can love me the most. Nobody will love me more than my mom or dad. But if you were abused by people like that from the get go, clearly those are people who never loved you. There are parents who resent their children. And there are spouses who genuinely never resent you and they love you more than anything. You're telling me that's not possible because you're childless? We have never really been tired. We don't know what busy really is, etc. I came across a post on Huffington Post about the inability for women with children to have friends who don't have children, simply because the latter group has no understanding of the havoc wreaked upon the lives of those who choose to procreate. No, it's called your priorities have to change. They need to change. Therefore, a life changing experience, such as having a child, will have an effect on your family dynamic, your job dynamic, and your friends. And some people simply don't feel any shame in letting you know. But you, parent, look at it as, well, I'm justified at having a shit job performance because I'm tired from being a parent. Or, well, it's justified for me to be tardy and have a trash attendance because I have a child. Or my child got sick, so I have to call out. You're not supposed to say at all that that is affecting you at the job. I am sorry that people get sick and they have to call out. I am sorry that the people who are dependent on this worker get sick and this worker needs to tend to them. For some reason, we don't like saying that. We don't like describing and explaining the truth. Maybe because it's one of those protected categories in the job sector. We don't like to talk about disabled people. We don't like to describe those things, but it is important because that difference exists. But most importantly, that difference affects us. We need to stop being so sensitive and refuse to describe these things. We're not trying to bully somebody. We're not trying to pick on them because of their circumstances. We need to discuss, though, the real effect that those things have on a team, on a friendship, on a partnership, anything. But because we try to be correct and be like, well, they're a parent, therefore they're in a vulnerable state, we have to protect them at our expense. That's what I'm trying to say. Like, do I need to be having children all the time? Should I start getting pregnant so that I get the privilege of a more lax attendance policy, a more lax, what is it, criticism? I get away with everything just because I'm a parent. Anything that happens to me in which I underdeliver because my kid had something to do with it. Because shit, if I have to, I'll do it. Shit, it's not practical. So that's the one thing that inspires me to instead journal or bring topics like this here, because I just absolutely hate that it's almost like an absolute cuss word for you to describe the consequences of someone being absent, the effect that that has. I'm not saying we don't care that your kid is sick. I'm saying that that is going to have a ripple effect. The way that's going to affect you, which you are a member of other things in society, that's going to affect us. So let's discuss how we can prepare, how we can adjust, how we can adapt to you under delivering all of a sudden in places where we need you. That's it. That's it. Crap like that makes me so annoyed, probably more annoyed than it should since it's a post from a woman I have little to no interest in. Not only that, but I often give in to the clickbait and the writer reels me into their bullshit of an argument. I always feel the need to defend my relationships with my friends. My friends aren't assholes. Yours probably are, if they are anything like you, and to validate my life without children. All because of a sickness called I saw this on the internet. And oh my God, that is so true. I'm so sick of people trying to bring stuff that happens in the meta into my real life. Don't be offended, you guys. But I think I've said this before recently. But I never talk about you guys. I never talk about my channel when I'm hanging out with other people. Ever. I don't even tell people that I have the channel. If you find it, you found it. Good for you. If you didn't find it, if you haven't heard of it, I'm not going to tell you about it because I don't promote it like that. And even to the people who I have told that I have the channel, it's not today's video was about blah blah blah. I may say, oh, I went to Burger King, tried their fries for the first time since forever, and they were great. I don't even reference the fact that I did a review on it. Or sometimes I read something from the comment section that's very compelling, something interesting, and I will say, oh, I heard, oh, I read about blah, blah, blah. What do you think? Something like that. I'm not going to be like, well, in the channel, someone told me A, B, C, and D. I may say something if the person asks me where I got the information from, and usually anything that I reference from the channel, I may share only with someone who knows about it already, just in case they ask for a reference. Like, oh, where did you hear that? I could say, oh yeah, when I made a video about blah, 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 someone said in the comments this, that, and the other. That's how I deal with it. But I absolutely hate that people are referencing the internet so much. And don't get me wrong, the internet is an amazing source of information. It has helped me. I'm sure it has helped you. Sometimes I feel people bring the drama and the shit that they see online that should stay online into real life. It's consuming your time, it's taking up your attention span. You're no longer present here in the room with me or out there with me if we're hanging out together or at work. And the people who are chronically scrolling on their dumbass phones. I hate that. I remember a time when we all could function without the distraction of these dumbass pieces of tech. But now everybody is so dependent of it, even to figure out what the hell to talk about. Do not talk to me about internet drama. I don't care. I don't want to hear it. In the same manner that I don't talk to you about internet drama. I may indulge in internet drama if I feel like it, if I want to, but I don't let it define me or get in my way and much less bring it into my real life. No. The story of being the childless friend is that it is like any other relationship between two people. It requires work. I do not feel as if these relationships are extra hard. Friendship can be difficult, but if it is something that is important to me, then I will put in the effort to ensure its success. Why is this so difficult to grasp? That two people in different phases of life can, in fact, learn from one another. Why must it always be all or nothing hyperbolic bullshit about how hard everything is? It's life. Life is difficult. Having children is difficult. We're all just going through the motions and each day trying not to fuck things up for ourselves or for future generations. When a person says that their time and their life has more value than mine simply because I do not have children, it makes me irate. And yes, it also makes me think of that person as an asshole. As my friend M said so eloquently about people like this, they were probably assholes before they had kids and now they're just assholes with children. And that is why your friends, both with and without children, don't hang out with you. It's not because we don't get it. That's true, because it reminds me of high school bullies. There are some people who, even after high school has been over for them, years ago, decades ago, if you were a bully in high school, unless you rectify that, you're probably still going to be a bully as an adult. Now, there's also a contrarian way to that, which could be you were nice, sweet, and tame in school, but outside of school, you still were, but gradually life started changing you and you became a bully. I know I'm in that stage, going in and out of it. There are some people who I just cannot deal with, and I let it known, and I no longer care about finesse, demonstrating finesse at it. I just let it out. And I don't want for that to sound like I'm proud that sometimes I'm a bully. At least I know that I don't have to be a bully because I was never a bully. But if I'm becoming a bully, I think that should serve as, hey, you know what, Zam, there's something going on with you. What is happening? What is making you be this way? We know you're not like that. You have to do your part too. You need to be a responsible member of the community too. Even if we're all grown, you have to look at life as if we're all in a classroom. So if you know how to be well behaved and you don't have those issues, but you observe those issues on somebody else, you ought to become the leader in that situation and approach this person and be like, you are displaying symptoms or behaviors associated with an individual who is depressed, is angry, is hurt, is stressed, is sleep deprived. Am I right? Are you going through any of that? How can I help you? What can we do? Or what led to that? Do you want to talk about it? Is it a valid concern? Am I correct? Am I prying? I hope I'm not. I'm coming from a place of wanting to help and genuine concern. That is much better than just being like, look at this bitch, and then not doing anything about it. That's the kind of person I am. Sometimes to get into a bully circle, you have to bully your way into their life. Or other times it's kind of like teaching children. I don't agree with parents who are bullies, but there are some children whose character is so strong that you have to tame them somehow. And the way you tame them is that you have to demonstrate your authority and your superiority to them at that moment in time. Sometimes that will look like you're bullying somebody. You're actively being abusive or something toward them. But sometimes that's what you need. Strong characters may not deal well with someone that has a softer character. I was going through life having my soft, tame, kind character. That was costing me. So now I developed a side of me that I deploy when necessary. The only thing I had to learn is learn when to deploy it, because it got to the point where I was deploying it for every circumstance because I enjoyed how great it was to have that power backing me up, that energy, that sternness, that assertiveness that I never associated with myself. It usually comes out when I bring out that bully side of me. But at least I know how to turn the dial back and turn it off all the way. Whereas I went from a moment of never having it to sometimes having it to completely having it, remaining continuously having it, And now it's like, okay, I'm learning to slowly but surely when I should remain my default and when I should recur to that. That is one of those things that, again, because I'm not a gray area person, it's either I'm a bully and an asshole or I'm not. It's not, sometimes I am, sometimes I'm not. And that's why when I tell you guys my stories of customer service, it's like, unfortunately, I don't get to bully these people. So that's why I stay quiet. I don't engage. I don't say anything. I don't entertain you. I think that is the safest way for me to go. Period. Well, there you guys have it. That's it for me. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope that you enjoyed this. I certainly did. It helped express some things. On top of that, I was able to branch out, and if she said something, it triggered another line of thought for me that maybe didn't have anything to do with childlessness or anything like that. But it's nice to still get it out. I like to make connections to another topic while I'm on one topic. That's what this is about. Thinking.